Hi, I'm Christopher Larkin, and you're watching the Permanent Rain Press.
Hey everyone, it's Chloe with the Permanent Rain Press. Today I am happy to be here with Christopher Larkin. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm really excited to be chatting with you today, not only about acting, but about your music as well. So let's start with acting. Season 4 of The 100 premieres in February. Monty has really come into his own over the course of the series. Can we expect to see more of his maturing and independence playing out on screen?
I hope so. It was great having season 3. I'm really glad that the show was able to exist that long, because I feel like for seasons 1 and 2, Monty often was relegated to a supporting role, and then he finally, I feel like, came into his own in season 3. Season 4, you can expect things to get a lot darker, which is good. I feel like I'm very proud of Monty because morally and ethically, he's always stood by his compass. I feel like he's one of the few characters who's been able to maintain his core values and strengths despite being in compromising position after compromising position. But I don't think you have a choice on the ground. I don't think it leaves you with much time. You have to mature at a very rapid rate, or that's going to be the end.
Well, yeah, it's been really great to see Monty and then, of course, the other characters really develop over the course of the few seasons. As you mentioned just earlier, like morals and ethics, the show largely deals with both of those. How do you tap into that mindset during filming?
It's a pretty dark place to live for 6 months of every year. But I think that's one of the show's strengths, is that we don't shy away from moral dilemmas and ethical quandaries. I think, if anything, we embrace them and try to challenge the audience as much as possible. Something that I've tried to get better at doing is to stop thinking of things as 100% right or 100% wrong. I think people forget that your only window into the show is through the Archers and not the Grounders or Mount Weather. So once you step back a bit and you realize that there are a lot of perspectives going on and a lot of different people with different experiences and values, that's when you can be a bit more open-minded and not go, oh, Clark did the right thing, she did the wrong thing, she's the good guy, she's the bad guy, or bad woman, good woman. I've tried to just live in this gray zone and not make things black and white.
Yeah, I guess just like anything in life, there is that gray area. So it's great that you can kind of take that and incorporate that into, outside of the show as well. So as a whole, just what can fans look forward to for season 4?
Death, destruction, the usual go-tos for the 100. I'm trying to think of the most politically correct answer to not spoil anything. New faces, some welcome, some very unwelcome. This is so coded. Just darker. I mean, if we went lighter than seasons 1 and 2 and 3, then we're going in the wrong direction. So I think it is the writer's job. It's Jason and then the entire room that we have. It's all of their jobs to make things continually a bit more dismal as time goes on, and I think we've achieved that.
Basically, a natural progression of where the show is heading. Yeah. But yeah, definitely fans are looking forward to seeing all of that on screen. Now, let's talk a bit about your co-stars. We've spoken with a couple in the past, and something
Besides
that's always...
Richard, who have you talked to?
Marie.
Oh, nice.
At another awards kind of show. But something that's always brought up is working with each other and the great environment on set. So can you briefly sum up your thoughts about working with the cast?
Well, it's nice to finally work with them, because for the first 2 years, my only scene partner of any relevance was Devin, which was great because it allowed Monty and Jasper to form that bond immediately on set and off set. And, Devin's 4 years younger than me, but if you go to IMDb and just start scrolling, it'll take you like days. He's got so many credits. And so working with him was like a big masterclass. I learned so much, and I'm still learning so much from him. But now they've expanded Monty's storyline, so I'm getting to work with some of the regular cast and a lot of guests. And I do have to say that the people in Vancouver, there's a lot of talent up here. Incredibly talented, wonderful people. And I'm glad they're getting their chance in the limelight because, we wouldn't have known about them if we weren't shooting up here. So met a lot of great local, everyone, out both on and off set. Everybody's been great.
It's great to know that that cast bond is kind of strengthened, like you mentioned, on and off set as well. So you'll be appearing at Unity Days later this month. You've done a couple of conventions in the past, so how important is this fan engagement to you, like on this kind of level?
Well, it's become really important because without them, we wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't have a story to tell. And I think, we used to refer to the 100 as the little show that could, because I think we were all amazed season after season as we got picked up. Not because of the content or anything, nothing from a creative standpoint, but we don't bring in big numbers or big ratings. But what we've come to learn is that there's a lot of fans internationally and domestically who stream the show after the fact. And, before you're interacting on social media, and it feels kind of like a false connection, like it's all through a digital interface. But then at the cons, you get to see people in person and look them in the eye and say thank you and shake their hands and really talk shop. So that's why I enjoy the cons.
Definitely seems like a rewarding experience. Do you have any particular moments that you remember, either during a convention or even panels at things like Comic-Con, which you have also done, that kind of stick out in your mind?
Well, my favorite cons aren't the corporate, like the Comic-Cons. I really like, I don't know if they're independently run, but my first con was Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia. And, the panel was just me and Richard, which was incredible because sometimes they make the panel 6 people, and you never get enough time with each person. So Richard and I were really able to play off each other. And that was my first time at a table when people could come up, and there was no time limit. Like sometimes they herd people through like cattle, but this was just people came up, and we were able to just talk for 10, 15 minutes, and not even about the show, just about their lives and what they did. So it was an actual conversation, not just a one-sided thing. So that was really cool.
Great. So, Unity Days, as I mentioned, later this month, it's in Vancouver where you film the show as well in BC. So what are you most looking forward to at Unity Days?
Not having to leave Vancouver. Because usually, you work a week and then you're flying out, and then by the time you get there, you're exhausted. By the time you leave, you're wiped. But then you have to come up to Vancouver and start going. So now we can all relax a little bit, and hopefully we'll be a bit more composed and well-rested. And our thoughts on the panels and in any kind of interviews will be a bit more precise than before if you have no sleep and you're stressed.
You perform your solo material under the moniker Carry Hatchet. Your album was released, the news today came out in 2015, but are you actively writing new material?
I'm always writing. Most of it ends up on the garbage heap, but I think just the act of writing all the time, I go in waves. It's like inspiration comes in waves, or you have to force it. Sometimes just sitting in a room and saying I'm not leaving until I've written this verse or this chorus or I've come up with this lick. And that can sometimes inspire you if you're going through the daily grind. That's how you can find motivation as well. I was hoping to release a new album in a couple weeks, but I worked with a producer over Christmas, which was a week ago, and he took one of my tracks and just completely transformed it. So I'm going to re-record everything in March in New York with him. But it's called The Happiest Album Ever Made, and it features 9 of the saddest songs I could think to write.
That sounds a bit sad on that spectrum, but I'm sure we really look forward to hearing it. Your first record was done on your MacBook. So I see, as you said, you worked with a producer on this one. So what kind of changed your approach to, having full control over its sound versus what it's a bit evolving into now with your new album?
Yeah, well, it's a really different experience because on the MacBook, I'm in full creative control. And I didn't really appreciate that until a couple of years ago. Because music for me is recreational. It's a hobby. And so when you don't have anyone telling you, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, it makes the process much more enjoyable. But a couple of years ago, I had an unfortunate experience with a producer, and the music ended up getting compromised in a huge way, and I left feeling very upset. And then I started writing the news today, and so I said, I'm going to write, record, mix, master, market, and publish an album by myself with no one else's help. So it was really frustrating and a huge learning curve, but I was able to do it. And yeah, that was the goal, to not have anyone stand in my way. But now I'm looking for collaboration. It's kind of lonely doing it by yourself.
Well, it's great to kind of see both ends of the spectrum on that. With the new album, did you if you can say anything, did you find yourself hitting any particular themes when you're writing?
Yeah, I didn't start out with any in mind, but I think I naturally gravitate towards my big three questions, which are, how did we get here? Why are we here? And what happens after you die? Or if anything. And no one knows, and we'll probably never know the answer in our lifetimes, which is terrifying and keeps me up at night. But that's what I try to grapple with in every song is how do we exist, knowing that it might all be for nothing. So that's a pretty dismal place to live as well. So between that and the 100, I'm getting a lot of happy days of the year.
Really thinking about life.
Really pondering my existence every day.
So you were born in South Korea but grew up in Connecticut. Was it difficult for you personally, and do you think it remains difficult for Asian Americans to find roles that offer the dynamicism and voice that you're hoping to see in a character?
That's a bit of a two-parter. So one, personally, no. It's really weird. In Connecticut, my sister and I were two of the only Asians in like a 99% Caucasian town. But I never felt any animosity or like racial tension. And it wasn't until I left for New York, where you think it's so diverse and everyone's going to be so open-minded and hippy-dippy. And that's when I started seeing a lot of racial tension for the first time. So it's in the big cities where I experience it the most, not the small towns, which I find very strange. And two, professionally, I think things are obviously getting better, but we still have a long ways to go. There's an article that came out called Marginalized Literally, and it was a bunch of billboards of TV shows and movies showing the cast of whatever project. And you notice that there are people of color on it, like everyone's hitting their quotas, which is great, but we're always in the margins. We're never front and center. And so I think the next step is getting leading roles. But it's getting better. It's better than it's ever been. And I think TV trumps film, it trumps theater. It's the most diverse place to be. So I'm happy to be there. That's
great. Yeah, definitely. Like with a lot of casts these days that have so many members, but like hopefully, as you mentioned, everyone gets equal screen time, and then it goes into like marketing and stuff as well. So
yeah, there's a definite. There's a definite hierarchy that you can see if any show that you happen to flip on or start streaming, you'll notice. Yeah, just count screen time. Just start timing it, because that's all very dependent on people's contracts. And hopefully, yes, equal footing would be great in the future.
And on one more note, we have our signature question for you. If you could be any ice cream flavor, which would you be and why?
It's really sad because you sent these to me in advance, and I think this is the one that I probably glossed over. The first thing that comes to mind, because it is one of my favorites, is Rocky Road. And I'm trying to tie this in. Like we just talked about, the road ahead is going to be long, and there are a lot of obstructions in the way. But before, it was just wilderness. Like you couldn't tell north from south, east from west. It's just woods. Now there's a path, and we can see the light, but there are a lot of rocks in the way. So right now it's a rocky road, but let's start clearing those rocks up.
Wonderful. I like the metaphor. That was good for on the spot.
It's Saturday afternoon, so I'm still a little... It'll be gone in an hour.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. We really appreciate it. So make sure you check out Carry Hatchet's album, The News Today. It is out on iTunes and Bandcamp.
Yeah. It's by my... Yeah, I don't have a label or anything. I think it's on Spotify. It's like streaming services and stuff.
So yeah, definitely go check that out. Great music, and tune in to the season 4 premiere of The 100, February 1st on the CW. Do you have a very quick message to anyone who's watching?
Get your tissues ready. But they might not just be tears of sadness. There may be some tears of joy as well.